Hey everyone, it's John, and today I'm going to do a video on using Ansible Playbooks. So let's just kick on and do it. As you can see, the topology is quite straightforward. We've got a basic EIGRP network up here, and below it a RIP network. Now here's the thing though, these all have IP addresses 10.0.0.1.2.3 and same for here 172.16.1.9.11.10 to correspond with the routers. However, just to make things easier, I've also given each router a loopback address which corresponds to its actual router name. So router 1 has a loopback of 1.1.1.1, router 6 has a loopback of 6.6.6.6, just to make it easier. So let's just kick on and do it then, I suppose. Let's start these nodes. The first thing I'll do, I'll quickly show you the Ansible web page, because this is very, very helpful. If you're looking for documentation for Ansible, then go to here. This is quite good. So you'll notice a few things I will be using in my playbook. Or username, obviously I'll be using that as John, which is the SSH login name. Authorize, I'm not actually going to set that because authorize will essentially elevate your privileges to privileged exec mode. However, I've actually configured each username to have privilege level 15, so automatically will go there anyway, so it's unnecessary. The timeout is actually 10 seconds. However, because I'm using virtual machines, VMware, things can run a wee bit slower than it would in real life, so I've actually extended the timeouts just to give me a bit of leeway. And the password, of course, is what the password is for your SSH connection. In this case, it's going to be a basic password of Cisco. So now that's out the road, let's go and do this. She'll connect to these nodes. Right, I think we're up and running. So let's just check this. First thing I need to do is put my basic configurations on my actual PC here, because I've got nothing on that yet. So ifconfig eth0, and we'll make the IP address 192.168.1.2. The network mask of a /24, and we'll bring that up. We'll do a root add default gateway. And the default gateway IP address of the router is 1.1. So let's just test for basic connectivity. Okay, we seem to have that. And let's just try to SSH John at, I don't know, 1.1.1.1. Yes, Cisco. Okay, we seem to be able to access the router. Now, there's a few things you need to do. If you've watched my previous Ansible video, I think I covered this, but I'm going to do it again just for kind of posterity. The first thing we need to do is actually configure our host file, which essentially will act like, DNS basically. So nano, and we'll do etc hosts. Now this is going to resolve the router name, so if I type in R1, it will resolve it to the actual IP address I specify. Now, like I said, I used a loopback to keep this simple, so here we go. So 1.1.1.1 will be R1, 2.2.2.2, and so on and so forth. Just bear with me, I'll just quickly pop this in. You can actually just put in IP addresses, you don't actually need to put in the actual names, but I prefer to do it so it's a bit simpler. Where are we? R6. And 10. R12, and write that out, save that. So now if I ping R1, it should resolve it to 1.1.1.1 and get a response. Yes, so we do. Right, a few other things. We need to actually set our Ansible configuration file. Now, I've just got this saved here to keep things nice and easy. Again, the timeout, I think the actual timeout in this ordinarily would be 5. Again, I've extended it by a large amount because virtual machines can run slow, and I'm just giving things a bit of extra leeway. So let's make this configuration file. So we'll do nano, and we'll call it ansible.cfg, and just paste this in here. There we go. And actually, see if we look at that, if we cat Ansible, what it's looking for, the inventory will actually be a host file. Now we're actually going to make that right here, so we'll nano, and we'll do host. Now this is actually going to correspond to my topology. So as you can see, I'm going to group things together so they make logical sense. I'll have a group called routers, which is going to encompass all of these routers, so R1 right through to R12. However, I'm also going to have an EIGRP section, which is just going to be 1 to 8, and a RIP section, which is going to be 9 to 12 plus R2, because that's also going to run RIP. So that's that. Let's go and do this then. So the first thing what you need to do with Ansible is use these square brackets. That will delineate and denote an actual specified group. So if I do square bracket, routers, this is going to be all my routers. So if I type in the word routers, it's going to include all of these ones. And again, these names R1, R2 will be resolved in the host config file, the host file, to the actual IP addresses, which is why I've made this. Rather than actually typing in IP addresses for in here, I can just type in the names. So that was the purpose of that. R6, R7. Now I must admit, setting all this up might seem a little bit tedious. You think, why couldn't you just go and just configure all this stuff? Well, that's the case, but see, once it's set up, then you can just keep deploying changes really, really easily. So it might take a little bit of time to get set up, but once you're up, you can it can accelerate things a lot. So EIGRP will go from R1 to R2, R3, R4, R5, R6, 7, R8, and our RIP section, we're going to just have R9, actually we'll put R2 as well, and we'll have R9, R10, right. So if I did a basic Ansible just on, say, RIP, and I used the module raw, again, this is an ad hoc command, this is not using the playbooks yet, I'll get to that in a wee second, and we'll use, the argument will be, I don't know, what, show IP root. User is John, ask for a password. Oh, what did I not do there? Ansible RIP. I'm not sure what I've done there. Trying rows. What have I made a mistake here on? Is my configuration file correct? EIGRP RIP seems to be okay. I've obviously done something wrong here. don't know what I did differently there. Never mind, it works now. God knows what that was about. So like I say, that's me. I've ran the ad-hoc command, which is going to essentially fetch the show IP route command from all the routers grouped together. And initially, Ansible just perform it on the RIP routers, and we'll just do a show run SSH password. And we're going to grab all the running configuration files from those routers. So anyway, that was just a brief test to make sure that was working. I don't actually know what I've done there. I've obviously skipped something that I've just overlooked. Never mind. So as you can see here, these routers don't have much on them. We've got SSH configured on them and some IP addressing, EIGRP and RIP, like I said. But they don't have any kind of, like, say, banners, anything like that. So what I've done here, let me show you. I've actually written this little playbook, and it's written in YAML. Now YAML is a kind of human readable language, and as you can see here, hosts, that's a generic Ansible thing you would use. That's going to deploy it on all the routers. I could change that to EIGRP just to apply it to my EIGRP routers, or RIP to my RIP routers. In this case, I'm going to apply it to all because it's John's generic router configuration. Gather facts, want to set that to false. Connection local, you can use the network CLI, but for this I'm using local. Vars, now we're going to be using, this is what you're going to tell the CLI what to use. The username will be John, password Cisco. Often people will put authorized, but like I said, the actual username John has got privilege 15, so I don't need to authorize that to elevate privileges. Timeout has been extended to 100 because I'm using a virtual machine. Now the tasks, so this is actually what it's going to display on the console when I put this through. It will say global configuration settings. It's going to use the CLI, and here's a list of commands. Now, if you can use these commands in global configuration mode, you can use them here. So I've just popped in a generic amount of commands here just to display this. I've got IP unicast routing, air disable recovery interval, security passwords, minimum length is 5, IP name server 99. That's actually not an IP address that I've got configured. I've just put it in anyway. SNMP servers and blah blah blah, NTP server again, and a banner. So at the very end of it, again, this is a consistent thing you'll see with Ansible. It'll register, you'll print output, and you'll debug to actually print the output on the screen. So what I'm going to do now is go to my IPvZero. So what I'm going to do is actually create an actual configuration YAML file. So we'll call this nano generic.yml. Now I'm going to go here, I'll just Control A to grab all that, copy it, and I'm just going to paste this in here. Write that out, save. So if we cat that, oh, so that's that there. Now, beforehand I used the command Ansible and typed in the routers, used the module raw, and I had to type in a password and that. Now because the actual the playbook has already got the password username John configured, I don't need to do that. It's just going to run the playbook. So rather than use Ansible, I type Ansible Playbook. So Ansible Playbook, and we're going to run the generic YAML. It's going to start running all these operations. Again, like I said, because you're using virtual machines and such, it does run slower. On actual real kit, on my actual real routers and switches, this works way quicker. Maybe my computer's just slow, possibly. So it's saying I've changed router 1, 3, 2. And this is why I changed the timeout, because ordinarily this could actually just time out and just cause an issue. Come on, come on. It really is taking its time this time. So once this finishes, you will see a brief summary of what it's done, if changes were made, if the connection was successful for each independent router. Okay, so no failed connections, nothing was unreachable, changes made, 1. If no changes were made to it, it would be a 0. So there's been a change on the recap, there's been a change made to all these routers. So now if you go on to say router 2, just grab this here, and now we do, you can see the banner already. I'll just exit out that, push enter, nope, push enter, and now you can see we've got the banner on that, show run, build the configuration, and we've now got security passwords, min length, all these other things, name server, all these new configurations. And this is true of all the routers because I've deployed it to every single one. Router 5. Again. Now again, this might seem a little bit overboard to configure a bunch of routers here, but if you can imagine in an actual industry kind of size network, you could be dealing with hundreds or thousands of routers. This is obviously far more efficient to deploy things with automation than it would be to manually just type everything in, and you're actually less likely to make errors because just like with DHCP will hand out IP addresses, manual configuration of IP addresses is very prone to error, so stuff like this is way better. So like I said, the beauty of this as well is it's very, very easy to make changes. So let's say I wanted to, I wanted to make changes to just the RIP routers. And I say, okay, I'll RIP, and let's change the community for the SNMP. We'll just call this John. Actually, we'll do no. And we'll pop and we'll put SNMP. Read write. Okay, now we're doing the RIP router, so let's just maybe change this to this is John's RIP routers. And don't make changes, just change it a little bit. So we could do copy all this and then we could just make a new configuration file. So go back to our actual what will we call this? We'll call this just rip.yaml. So that's going to have the changes in here, and maybe change that to John's generic RIP configuration. That seems to be fine. Write that out. Now if we run the Ansible playbook on rip.yaml, there we go. Now, of course, because it's just been set to configure the RIP routers, only the routers which have been configured under my RIP commands have actually been changed. So now if we go to, say, if we do a show, rather we do an Ansible, RIP, we'll do a module raw argument show run section banner, and we use a username John and K. Now we'll see the banners are all just RIP routers on this, whereas if we did on EIGRP, check the EIGRP routers, don't know why that's not connected to that. With an issue connecting with router 3 there for some reason, not sure why, but as you can see, these still have the old banners on them. And just for posterity, let's just go in and just check on the actual routers. So router 9 is a RIP router. Again, it's the RIP router 1. The show run is going to have the different configurations on it. It's now got the different SNMP servers versus what you would find on an EIGRP router. So that's still got the EIGRP configurations. We'll show run. As you can see, that's got the IPvZero SNMP server. So this is just a quick demonstration to see, or rather show you what you can do with Ansible Playbooks. They really scale well. The larger the network is, the more convenient this becomes. Like I showed you, it's very, very easy to make changes globally to large groups of routers. So for example, or switches, to be honest, you can do this in switches too, obviously. So long as they're configured for SSH, because Ansible is agentless. As long as SSH is configured on the device, you can access it via Ansible. So yep, so that basically, this is just a demonstration to show you just how easy it is to make changes, how easy it is to scale with Ansible. And yeah, so that's the end of the video. Thanks very much, and I'll see you guys soon.